Good afternoon, Fab fans. Um, just thought I'd share this with you. As many of you know, occasionally I like to share some of my findings with my psychology studies, as well as my law studies and things like that. Um, but occasionally I come across certain things which um, I find quite enlightening, and I often bore people to tears with them. Um, but nevertheless, I think it's important to, perhaps share some certain things as people might find them quite useful to discover too. And one of the things that have interested me for a long time, because it was different in my youth, was on the subject of music. And I won't go into the subject of how that can change states and things like that. That's for another day. But in particular on lyrics and things like that. And one of my books that I wrote, there was a particular thing that I mentioned when I discussed this with my mum, because she went through life sort of loving certain music and loving certain singers and things like that, but never really listening to the lyrics, as did I when I was younger. I used to listen to the beat and listen to dance to a lot of music and things like that. If you can imagine me ever dancing, but I did. I used to break dance as well. Funnily enough, me and my brother George, we were pretty good. I was body popping, but he used to do all the other stuff. But nevertheless, I digress. But we never really used to listen so much to the lyrics. Now, some people do, those more auditory, but me being sort of more visual and kinesthetic, I used to have a more feeling-based connection to music. So, nevertheless, in later years, through actually, I think it was George Michael first really taught me or brought me to listening to the lyrics, because there was a song that he wrote which touched me quite a bit, which was "My Mother Had a Brother." And if you ever get the chance to listen to that song, I highly recommend it. It certainly changed my view on George. And then I subsequently went back and listened to many of his lyrics, particularly from Listen Without Prejudice, that particular album, because obviously he had a major change in his life and how he viewed his career, etc. So I wondered where this person who could write such a song with that kind of emotion, with that kind of intimacy and that kind of personal trauma, could and turn it into something really positive as well, by the way. But every time I listen to that song, it really, really has an effect on me, even now. And every now and again, I listen to that song quite a bit, as do a lot of his songs. In fact, I miss George quite a bit, because I do believe that he was highly misunderstood, but more importantly, is fundamentally missed, I think. But nevertheless, that drew me on certain things, and then I started listening more to the lyrics, or what they say, and I noticed that in modern music, it's just not there. There's very few lyricists out there. I think Kanye probably is there, but I don't think most people understand a lot of the messages that he's trying to get across. I think that they have an opinion, and then that's driven by media, but his is kind of an inversion. So what he says is not necessarily what he means, but we won't go there. But as regards to listening to older music, like Stevie Wonder, before he sort of changed in the 80s, but if you go back to 60s and 70s, but more the 70s, one of my favourite songs is Jesus Children of America, and you should listen to that song as well, because that tells you about society, that tells you about religion, it tells you quite a bit about certain things. But anyway, part of and sometimes going back to when I had this conversation with my mum, one of her favourite songs was "Heard It Through the Grapevine," but she never really sort of understood what that song was about. Of course, you know what the phrase is, "I heard it through the grapevine." Everyone kind of knows what that means. But then when you listen to the lyrics, it's a much deeper conversation. It's a much deeper meaning to it. So when I explained that to her, now she listens to that song and she sort of really understands what that was all about. But then when I started looking at obviously psychology, I always look at self-reflection and sort of okay, how did I become the man I become, or in certain parts of my life, how did I view certain things? Because obviously I view things very, very differently now. I've evolved in certain ways, and there's no such thing as perfection, but certainly try. But when I was younger, I viewed things very much like this, and then changed to that, and as many people do. And music was a big part of it. But I look back at my sort of school days and kind of thought, well, what kind of music was I into then? So I went back to my favourite kind of music, and one of the songs that really sort of jumped out at me, was Howard Jones. I think it was like I think it's called New Song, and that was one of my favourite songs at the time. I loved it. Now, of course, we used to have like a lot of like bullying and stuff like that at school. I was never bullied at school because I could look after myself, but also I had 4 big brothers who everyone was terrified of. So they didn't really want to mess around with me because I had my brothers. Not that they ever had to get involved in anything, because it didn't really happen. But when you're lucky enough to have a subliminal protection, then people leave you alone. But actually, my family were more sort of the bulliers of bullies. Because my mum was bullied, so we didn't like bullies. But I digress again. But this song, New Song, was really interesting. I listen to that quite a lot now, and going back to that. And it leads me again to people like George Michael and Howard Jones and Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye, about the lyrics that they wrote and the lyrics that they were saying. It's not about just a groovy beat. It's not just about things like that. And obviously, of course, they would say that they're trying to get a message across, but having to explain what these songs mean is not something that they really want to do. You either get it or you don't. But if you listen to New Song, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting that actually it's always resonated with me. But New Song is about actually taking off the chains of your mental restrictions. It's about looking at both sides of the pictures. It's about freeing yourself from mental slavery and things like that. It's about sort of not going along with the crowd. It's a really they're quite deep lyrics actually for quite a pop song. So I would highly recommend that you listen to it. It's quite interesting to. I'm going to start listening to a few more Howard Jones songs, just to see whether he was this type of person that wanted to get this message across in a kind of pop style fashion, and whether and maybe look at his background on why he thought this way. But on a personal level, it's quite interesting that subliminally I was drawn to this music because, of course, I like the beat, I like the music, but I think these words subliminally meant something to me as well, because I was the type of person that always looked at things from two sides. As a child, coming from sort of partly early days dysfunctional family, and then a very functional family because my mum brought us up, and we were very functional. We had a very stable family with my mum, but prior to that, it was Obviously, I was young, but it wasn't particularly good. And it was a different type of family unit because, of course, you're a single parent. So it was different from your friends and things like that. So we were always looking in a more sort of observational way as children. So we did used to view things different from how we were brought up to, whereas you've got sort of normal families, they don't necessarily see the things that we see. So that did shape us in a way. So these words that were woven within songs, it's funny that all of those songs that I liked when I was a child, I still like now. And then when I listen to the lyrics, they're very deep, but I didn't notice them at the time. So I just thought I'd share that. Obviously, part of my studies is forensic psychology, and I've been looking at that for quite some time. I'm partway into my undergraduate degree in that. I've just finished my degree in law, and I look forward to sharing some more insights with you. But like I say, I would like to use it in trying to understand certain things about what shapes us, and hopefully share those onto you, because I do think in looking at how we become the people that we are, and looking back, for good or bad, it does help us in some way. So good luck. And also, I just want to mention that my new book, which will be coming out early in 2026, which is The Origins of Belief, looks at how we became attached to religion, looking at monotheism and polytheism, going back from, why did people sort of worship gods and things like that. And it's quite interesting. And it stems from psychology, looking at, how can we learn to control the things that are uncontrollable, and how we can create and invent certain things. It's very insightful, and it all really stems with control, and how other people maybe feel that they need to control us. But if we understand ourselves, and we control ourselves, then it's very difficult for people to control us. So simple lessons. So in self-reflection, understanding who we are, how we become who we are, we may be able to improve. We might understand that actually we're pretty good. But also we can, as Howard Jones says, shake off those mental chains. Check out the song. Check out George Michael, My Mother Had a Brother. It's very, very emotional song. There's a few other ones of his songs as well, which are incredible. If you ever listen to the song Star People, if you've not understood the lyrics there, he does not count himself among you. He might be living in a dream, but he definitely saw himself different. And I believe he was. And God love him, miss him. And let's hope we can keep his music going, because it has a lot of feeling in that. A lot of love too. So good luck, everybody. And I'll speak to you again soon. Take care, and goodbye. Adios.